Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
What better opening for the Stone Zone than Kate Smith's stirring rendition of God Bless America on this day in which we enjoy our barbecues and our family gatherings? Let's not forget to honor those men and women who gave all in the cause of freedom this Memorial Day. A little later in the show, we will also have the recipe for the perfect hamburger, because what would Memorial Day without the outdoor barbecue, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the fellowship? In the meantime, it makes sense that President Trump has announced a parade for the Army's 250th anniversary, and of course liberals are losing their minds. President Donald Trump announced he's holding a large-scale military parade in Washington next month for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. I'm proud to announce we'll be holding this magnificent parade to honor the Army on June 14th in Washington, D.C. For 2.5 centuries, our brave soldiers have fought, bled, and died to keep us free. And now we will honor them with a magnificent parade, one that is worthy of their service and sacrifice. Americans across the nation are invited to attend. The festivities will actually feature country singers Noah Hicks and Scotty Hastings. The day will culminate with a parade featuring troops wearing uniforms representing every conflict dating back to the Revolutionary War. They will march about a mile down Constitutional Avenue from the Lincoln Memorial to the Washington Monument. The parade will be accompanied by 28 M1 Abrams tanks, 28 Bradley fighting vehicles, 28 Strykers, and other military equipment. Needless to say, the liberals at places like MSNBC, ABC, CNN responded with alarm, framing this patriotic parade as a symbol of authoritarian leadership rather than what it is, a patriotic celebration. I don't get my news coverage from MSNBC for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet. We don't need a military parade, Charles Blow, the CNN analyst, said. I'm not interested in throwing a parade for you, said Whoopi Goldberg at ABC's The View. And you wonder why these networks' ratings are dropping into the toilet. Responding to his liberal critics, President Trump said, "We have the greatest army in the world. We have the greatest submarines in the world. We have the greatest army tanks in the world. We have the strongest military in the world, and we're going to celebrate it." I'm with the president on this one. In the meantime, I think Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really does not get enough credit for the magnificent job that he is doing. First and foremost, he's restructuring the HHS department and reducing bureaucracy. He's prioritized streamlining HHS operations, which include reducing the staff at the federal agencies and eliminating certain government programs deemed inefficient and ineffective. He's emphasized shifting funding away from bureaucratic overhead to direct impact programs such as supporting Medicare, Medicaid, and Head Start, which he considers foundational to his efforts to make America healthy again. He also has taken steps to revise vaccine-related policies, including pulling the promotional ads for seasonal flu shots and postponing temporarily meetings with the vaccine advisors until he can establish a new CDC division dedicated to studying vaccination injuries, emphasizing gold standard science to investigate vaccine safety. Additionally, and I think this is particularly important, he has launched a broad strategy to address the problem of chronic childhood disease, which he correctly attributes to poor nutrition, environmental toxins, and lifestyle factors. His Make America Healthy Again agenda includes a $94 billion investment in better food, fitness, and child care programs, as well as promoting access to raw milk and reducing unhealthy fats in our diets. He also has taken on the whole question of gain of function. You remember that. That's when U.S. taxpayers financed activities in a Wuhan, China lab to weaponize the COVID-19 COVID virus, and make it more dangerous. Dr. Anthony Fauci lied about that under oath to Congress when questioned by Senator Rand Paul. I'm still wondering whether he will pay any penalty for that. Kennedy has also, and I think this is particularly important, moved very aggressively to deal with the question of the additives in our food. It just amazes me that there are foods regularly sold in the grocery stores here in the United States that include dangerous additives that are already illegal in Europe. For example, red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2, green dye number 3, red dye number 3. Under RFK, he is targeted for phase-out by the end of 2026. Many of these additives, which have been linked to hyperactivity in children and potential carcinogenic risks. These additives are found in candies, cereals, and drinks. Many of them have been proven to be toxic. As I say, RFK, who I really admire tremendously because he's taken a lot of flack for his positions, but he has been completely consistent, points to 4 potential causes for this childhood chronic disease bombshell that has hit America. How can we be the richest country in the world, yet we are the unhealthiest, with autism statistics up, with child obesity up, with cancer up, mental health issues up, allergies up. This new report that he's released, The Health of America's Children, is really shocking. The The report calls for further inquiry into the link between vaccinations and chronic diseases, saying there has been limited scientific inquiry into the issue. This research will be used to police recommendations by August of 2025, which will then be presented by Secretary Kennedy to President Trump. President Trump wants every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life, according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who called the reporters, who said that this report by Kennedy was a historic assessment. Now, Kennedy's report actually cites ultra-processed foods as among the most likely causes of chronic childhood disease. Additives of particularly concern include, as I say, red dye 40, a commonly used dye associated with behavioral problems in children, titanium dioxide, which could lead to DNA damage, polyparaben, a widely used preservative thought to cause hormonal disruptions, and artificial sweeteners, which have been linked to obesity and metabolic issues. In addition, 70% of the diets of American children are currently made up of high-calorie, low-nutrient foods. Ultra-processed grains, sugars, and fats largely didn't even exist a century ago. This problem was unknown. The report also states dangerous chemicals are present in food items, including heavy metals, pesticides, microplastics, cleansing products, cosmetics, non-stick cookware, and the water systems, particularly fluoride. We now know, based on government studies, that fluoride, which we were told would preserve dental health, is actually, in the long term, toxic. Many states have outlawed it. It is supposed to have been outlawed by 2025. That has not yet fully happened, but RFK gets incredible credit for pushing the drive to eliminate fluoride from our water. It's funny, way back in the 60s, I remember those in the John Birch Society told us that fluoride was dangerous, and we scoffed at them. The mainstream media dismissed them. They weren't right about everything, but they were right about this. 1 in 5 U.S. children reported to have currently taking prescription medications, including for ADHD or antidepressants, antibiotics, and more. Regarding vaccinations, Kennedy's report said, as with any medicine, vaccines can have a side effect that must be balanced against their benefits. Parents must be fully informed of the benefits and the risks of vaccinations. In other words, it is a question of choice, and I agree very strongly with that. I really think that Robert Kennedy is doing a spectacular job. It is more than just the realignment of our politics that we saw in the last presidential election, in which traditional Democrats who believed in peace, Democrats who believed in free speech, Democrats who believed in a healthier America, joined with Republicans to challenge the status quo. I think that changed our politics entirely, and I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. deserves enormous credit for putting his personal political ambitions aside in order to join with Donald Trump to refashion the Make America Great, Make America Healthy Again movements. This cannot be underestimated in terms of its long-term effect on American politics. Coming up just a little bit later, Mel K of the Mel K Show is going to talk to us about this and several other things. Thank you for joining us here in the Stone Zone on this Memorial Day. We are pleased to have you with us. Whatever you do, please don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by Buick. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Buick Certified Service Fresh Start Tire Event. Visit Buick.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only, highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for a light and fit remix. Like a crunchy storm of graham cookies, caramel pearls, and dark chocolate, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 light and fit remix varieties with craveable flavors and up to 120 calories and 10 grams of protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
One of the reasons that people enter the Stone Zone is to get the inside skinny on American politics, and we're now learning more and more about former President Joe Biden's forced decision not to run for re-election. It evidently divided 2 longtime, well-known Democrat political advisors, and they had quite a smash-up. Biden's former chief of staff, Ron Klain, who I identified on this show as one of those who controlled the auto pen. That is the pen that was used to sign the preemptive pardon of Joe Biden's political cronies, but also to sign the pardons for hardened criminals, murderers, drug dealers, and the likes, had a major fight with former President Barack Obama's chief advisor, David Axelrod. Axelrod repeatedly kept calling Joe Biden's health an issue. And of course, those around Biden continued a monstrous cover-up regarding his mental decline. None were worse, of course, than Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's now out with a book trying to capitalize on the fact that he lied to us. In fact, he verbally abused Lara Trump, the president's daughter-in-law, on CNN when she raised the very legitimate question of Joe Biden's cognitive decline. We could see it. You could see it when he read the stage directions, when he read off the teleprompter, when he fell down, when he couldn't figure out which way to exit the stage. But to me, the biggest sign was his inability to finish a full sentence. He literally would trail off in the middle of, well, you know what I mean. The presidency is a monstrous job, and the stark reality is that Donald Trump at 78 is younger than Joe Biden was when he left office. You can see it in his stamina. You can see it in his energy. You can see it with his incredible performance visiting the Middle East. I think his election was a testimony to his stamina, his courage, his persistence. But it's not really about age, it's about condition. We now know what really happened. Joe Biden was forced out of the race against his will. And then those who kept screaming about democracy, democracy, in the most undemocratic move in American political history, nominated a candidate, Kamala Harris, that not a single Democrat primary or caucus voter had voted for. And now, if you took a poll, she is actually the leading candidate, not just for governor of California, but today she's the leading candidate for the 2028 Democrat presidential nomination. As a supporter of Donald Trump, as a partisan in this case, I say Could we be so lucky? Don't go away. We'll be right back with the irrepressible Mel K, star of the Mel K Show, on the other side. You're listening to the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
Of course you love a pint of Ben & Jerry's, but maybe you don't love sharing your pint of Ben & Jerry's. No problem. Now you can share the love with Ben & Jerry's new Scoop-A-Palooza. 28 whole ounces of crowd-pleasing flavor in a single tub. It's an instant ice cream party. And if that means your favorite pint is left just for you, so be it. Ben & Jerry's new 28-ounce Scoop-A-Palooza. Made for sharing in 4 larger-than-life flavors. See benjerry.com/palooza.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Custom window treatments are a small upgrade that have a big impact. No better time to shop than now at Blinds.com's Memorial Day Mega Sale. Blinds.com invented a better way to shop for window treatments, completely online with upfront pricing, no showroom markups, no salespeople in your home. Choose from classic shutters to outdoor shades and more, all backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day Mega Sale now. Save up to 50% site-wide, plus a free measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Joining me now is the dynamic Mel K. Mel K is one of the most compelling thinkers and speakers, specializing in connecting complex dots and analyzing compelling narratives. She is, of course, the host of the Mel K Show. Despite efforts to purge and censor her, she has persevered, and the Mel K Show is seen by millions of people every week. I like Mel K because she tells it like it is, and ran into her the other night in where else? A bar. We had a cocktail, and it occurred to me that we really need some of Mel K's wisdom here in the Stone Zone. So, Mel, thanks for joining us.
Great seeing you. What a time. What a time to be alive, huh?
It really is. Mel, by the way, is also the author of a terrific book, Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. Strongly urge you to check that out. Mel spent 2 decades in Hollywood, working as a screenwriter and producer. She also has an investigative journalism background, and she has a keen eye for what's going on in the country. Mel, let's jump right into it. The auto pen. Turns out that Joe Biden probably was unaware of the fact that He was pardoning some of his cronies like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney and Dr. Anthony Fauci and others. He was also pardoning, and this is kind of hard to understand, hardened criminals, murderers, drug dealers, people who had never expressed remorse, people who hadn't even applied for a pardon. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I make it the same thing. It's a continuation of what we've been dealing with for a very long time. Before the 2020 election, there were 51 intelligence operatives that lied to the country. There was a concerted effort to, in my opinion, it was a conspiracy to defraud the people of the United States of America. So once they put in Joe Biden as a front man and continued to run the country through the Obama network after, it didn't really matter. And if you look back on their history, it wouldn't surprise me what Tim Burchett is saying, which is that some of these people paid off whoever the autopen runners were to get pardons for people for one reason or another. And that wouldn't surprise me because a lot of what's happening, especially that's coming out now over the last 4 years of criminality, it seems to me that maybe the Biden crime family is the least of the criminals behind the scenes in the Biden world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Congressman Tim Burchett, a crusading congressman from Tennessee, has speculated that somebody was getting paid, which there is really no other logical explanation for some of these. But what if the auto pen was used to sign the Supreme Court appointment of Judge Ketanji Brown? Is that, I'm not sure how you would address that legally.
I'm not sure either, but I do know that they violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was already in place when, Biden announced that he could only pick a black woman for the Supreme Court justice. So it starts there, and then you work backwards. Frankly, I think everything, if we can prove that he was not running the White House, which I don't think he was. I see Susan Rice, Anita Dunn, the Donilon brothers. A lot of people were back there that the American people don't even know who they are. And I think first and foremost, we have to find out at what point, and was it before the election of 2020, that he was already incapacitated. And I don't know how we will figure that out, but I do believe that that will come to light at some point with the new structuring that's going on in the very corrupt intelligence community.
Yeah, the most culpable person here, of course, is Dr. Jill Biden, not since Woodrow Wilson's wife concealed the fact that President Wilson was completely physically and mentally debilitated by a stroke for the last 3 years of his presidency, and that she, along with the White House Chief of Staff, Colonel House, were really running the country. But this was in the pre-mass media days, the pre-television, the pre-internet days, so you could hide it a lot better. She knew that Joe wasn't up to the job, but she enjoyed the pomp and circumstance, not to mention the money-making opportunities for the Biden crime family. We know definitively that Hunter and Jim Biden, other members of the Biden family, got tens of millions of dollars from entities in China, in Russia, in Ukraine, in Romania, and elsewhere. It appears to me, by the way, that they will pay no price whatsoever for that.
Yeah, it appears that way to me, too, though I'm not entirely sure. I think a lot of crimes that we're going to be dealing with, whether it's past the statute of limitations, which honestly, on some RICO cases, sedition and treason, I don't think there are any. But we do have to look all the way back to the original Obama, even picking Joe Biden, and what happened during those years. A lot of these deals that were put out once we got all the documentation from the Hunter Biden laptops, was frankly that this was going on for decades with the Biden family, and certainly during the years involved where he was vice president. And then on top of that, we know that everything that transpired leading up to 2020 involved not just big money donors, but also people all over the place that were manipulating this country via propaganda and, the news media to just kind of dismiss all of the criminality. And frankly, the whole Burisma situation, the whole war going back to, the end of the USSR, but certainly 2014, this all goes on Biden's watch. This all goes on Nuland, the people that overthrew the 2014 government of Ukraine and then took over. That included the Biden family. So all of this also included Barack Obama. And for me, if this country does not get to the bottom of Barack Obama and his many criminal acts in office and after office, then we are not going to clean up. as much as we possibly can, which is what we have to do.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to the incredible Mel K. She's the host of the Mel K Show. You can find her on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Mel K Show. Strongly urge you to follow her lively postings there, and you can see her show on Rumble. What I love about you, Mel, is you always tell it exactly the way it is. President Trump said today he's considering taking the $3 billion that we're currently giving to Harvard, which, by the way, has a multi-billion-dollar endowment that they never touch, and giving it instead to trade schools. Think that's a good move?
I think it's a great move because we have to understand things that are coming out about some of the companies that we consider American that are not American. They are global public-private partnerships. But Apple has been going over to China all these years. What people don't look at is that China has been training them to do the technology, to create the phones, to do all of this. So we don't have anyone learning trades either in AI or in creating some of the electronics and the chips. We don't have people that can do, plumbing at this point. I mean, I think that's the best thing that we could possibly do. And also, Harvard has been a problem for decades. And at this point, if we can't look at the Kennedy School and some of the things that have come out of it, particularly Kissinger, and then you team that up with the World Economic Forum and the EU, we have been greatly deceived about the Poison Ivy League for a very long time, particularly how they treated the Weather Underground and the people that funded that and then put them all into those schools after we already dealt with the Frankfurt School at Columbia. So none of this is new. We have just been lied to for decades that these are the superior intellects of our country when clearly they're just the controlled globalist feeding house in our nation, into our government, that have been betraying this nation.
It's funny you mentioned plumbers. When I was growing up, my parents were a blue-collar, working-class background in the suburbs of New York City and Connecticut. They wanted me to become a plumber. Of course, then I went to work for Richard Nixon, so in a way, I guess I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. But we need that all over the country. If we're going to rebuild Main Street, we need American people to get out there and take it personally, that they themselves, individually, how can they get involved in rebuilding America? And a lot of that's going to be in rebuilding Main Street all over this country that has been abandoned. And frankly, all of the abandoned farmland, all of the abandoned mills, all of that. We can restore this country, but the people have to get involved. And that's really where we're at right now.
Subjective question for you, Mel. What, in your opinion, is the single greatest danger facing this country?
The single greatest danger facing this country right now, in my opinion, is the unholy alliance between the globalist billionaire oligarchy that has captured our country from the highest levels, that aligns with the World Economic Forum and the UN and the Bilderberg, aligned with the EU, and this idea that they still want a unified Europe. And it's just very disturbing that they're pushing towards World War III, no matter how many people die, no matter how much chaos, because I believe that they still cannot let go of this idea of this future where Europe is still the most powerful, including swallowing up Russia. So to me, what I'm looking at, and I've been looking at lately with Chuck Grassley asking for the rat line records from Credit Suisse to Argentina to America, I think we're looking at the post-World War II period, Bretton Woods period, all of that period, the German Marshall Fund, and looking at that and thinking, was that when America was sold out? And I really think that the American people have to really look at that period of time post-World War II and realize we're dealing with the same people that allowed Nazis into our military, that did Operation Paperclip. They were all aligned with the banking cartel, and they're trying to save this greater Europe, UK, Swiss international banking system that they put together by any means necessary. Of course, I think they're failing, but the EU is the worst of their projects, and the euro, of course, came out of that. So I just think we have a lot of banking criminality that's worldwide that is being exposed, and once people can clearly see that, I think we will be far on our way to realizing who our allies are and who they are not, because I do not believe the EU to be an ally of the United States at this point.
I completely agree with you. I would only add this. I think our greatest danger is all those entities that you mentioned and their alliance with mainstream media and their desperate need to censor us. It doesn't matter what you think of Elon Musk. It's interesting to me that the left loved him until he bought Twitter, renamed it X, and let people like you and I back on. And then suddenly he found himself the target of 9 separate federal investigations, which had to do with his new commitment to free speech. Censorship that covers the criminality of the financial acts as well as the acts of war and the crimes against humanity by the globalists, I think is the greatest single danger we face, and we should not kid ourselves. Facebook is still heavily censored. Instagram is still heavily censored. YouTube is still heavily censored. You can go to Facebook right now. You'll find a bunch of Roger Stones, but none of them are me. Not a single one. I was in a restaurant recently. A guy came up to me and said, "Hey, Stone, where's that crypto I bought from you?" I said, "Pardon me?"
Oh, geez,
he said, "The crypto I bought from you on Facebook." Well, folks, A, I don't sell crypto, and B, I'm not on Facebook. But I've had other people say, you offered me a job on Facebook, you asked for my financial information. Folks, I'm not on Facebook. If you see a Roger Stone there, it's not me. I would not follow them nor listen to their entreaties. Look, the suspected murderer, Elias Rodriguez, reportedly posted death to America prior to the murder of 2 people in New York City. He also praised Luigi Mangione, who gunned down a insurance company executive. Has the left become completely unhinged?
Yeah, sadly enough, the hardest part to really unravel all of this, again, a lot of this goes back, sadly, to Harvard, to Gene Sharp, to Norm Eisen, to his mentor, Cass Sonstein, who doesn't believe in the First Amendment. Of course, his wife has been running the money train to the censors and to the fake news and to the Poynter Institute and the Reid Hoffman's ridiculous Columbia University journalism programs. These are all propagandists on the level that only Goebbels and Hitler and Himmler are looking at, thinking from hell, oh my God, they're so good at this. But a lot of this goes back to straight up color revolution, infiltrating front groups, things that they've been doing since the 40s and 50s in America. And, you know, they all went after McCarthy and the Red House documents, and all that is fake. But you can look it up on the CIA website. A lot of this is infiltration instead of invasion, as JFK warned us, and we have allowed it to go. And the bottom line is, when this all comes to fruition, you find that it's the same 10 globalist billionaires that are behind the Great Reset, that are behind the Fourth Industrial Revolution, that are funding every one of these on-the-ground movements that are destroying our country, promoting violence, and getting to our kids. And if we don't just cut it off like Trump's trying to do, but we also have to educate the public that they are being deceived, because first of all, Google and Wikipedia are a danger to this country, especially to our children. They are picking and choosing respected sources. Of course, that's Politico, New York Times, USA Today, Washington Post, all that. Then you got YouTube, also the same thing. That's Google. And then on the other side, you have Wikipedia, a fraudulent CIA operation that is basically our children are using as an encyclopedia, like we used when we were kids in the library and had to research things. So our children are being deceived about the past, about the future, and about right now by those entities. And our country has to stand up and stop it, or our children will never, ever understand, and they will be rendered helpless and unable to fight back if we don't win this war right now.
We're listening to the irrepressible Mel K right here in the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone. This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
We're back in the Stone Zone. We're visiting with the irrepressible Mel K. She is the host of the Mel K Show on Rumble. You can find her at Mel K Show on X. Mel, at the beginning of the show, because it's Memorial Day, I promised people the recipe for the perfect hamburger, and here it is. If you need 2 pounds of ground beef, you need a quarter cup of minced yellow onion, you need 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme, 1 tablespoon of ground black pepper, 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary, 1/4 teaspoon of coriander, 1/4 spoon of ground fennel, a dash of cayenne pepper, and 1 egg lightly beaten. You mix all of that in a bowl with a sprinkle of kosher salt. You form that into patties, and then you can either put it in a cast iron skillet over medium-high heat, or, of course, you can grill it outside. By the way, that is the secret recipe for the 21 burger from the old 21 Club on 52nd Street. Mel, on this Memorial Day, I want you to give us your final thoughts about where America is and where we are headed.
Well, I think we are in a tremendous opportunity. Right now, it's kind of like a snow globe being shaken up, and not everything's falling into place. But I do have a lot of faith in a couple of people that have the ability to turn this country around, and that is we have a real problem post-Patriot Act with a fourth branch of government known as the intelligence community that has been weaponized against us. And I believe DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, and, of course, the emissary to the intelligence community, Devin Nunes and others, need to weed out, sort out, and start using the DNI as was intended, as the clearing ground for all of the intelligence. The DNI can go in and get anything they want. That's part of the Patriot Act deal for creating it, and that's got to be the first step. We also have to use the weapons they used against us, against them. Unfortunately, and it's not them, the Democrats, because the left and right Republican Democrat right now is a joke. What it is are people that are globalist, oligarch types that own all these NGOs that have been functioning as a shadow government. We both know they didn't leave D.C. when Trump came in. They went to East-West Advisors and a bunch of different consulting firms and continued down the path as if they were running the government as a shadow government. And frankly, Tulsi Gabbard has the ability to pull all those pieces together and actually put together the first real assessment of what has gone on in the intelligence community over the last several years. And I believe she's doing that right now. At that point, we bring a lot to the surface, and we can cut a lot of fat. In the meantime, the American people have to understand the sewer is in D.C., the swamp is in your backyard. And every single American that loves this country, loves their children, wants to recreate greatness in this nation has to realize it's in their hands and their hands locally. We have these NGOs, these sustainable development, the surveillance state in every backyard, everywhere in this country. It was a full infiltration that has not been stopped since 1963, and it's time for us to get involved locally and pull out the NGOs, pull out the cronies that are giving away, our elections and all of that. But it's got to be all hands on deck. We right now are in 1776, because if you look at the Declaration of Independence right now, we are fighting the exact same fight, but this time against a global public-private partnership that does not hide and we can defeat, but only if we know the enemy and take it into our own hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Mel K, a firecracker, a patriot, a thinker, a woman of enormous courage. You can see her on the Mel K Show. It's available on Rumble. Also, you can find her at Mel K Show on X. Mel, thanks for joining us today in the Stone Zone. And, I owe you a burger. Let's do it.
Yes, you do. Thank you.
That's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you. And yes, Godspeed.